Welcome to the International Online Conference, Creating Stability Within Uncertainty. And with us today is Professor Pavel Luksha from Moscow, Russia. Pavel is a Russian global thinker, change catalyst, and facilitator, and also author and co-author of numerous papers and publications. He's a professor at the Moscow School of Management and the founder of an organization and network named the Global Education Future Foundation or organization. And so thank you, Pavel, for being with us here in this conference. And Moscow is near and far away. And so maybe can you give us a sense on how coronavirus situation has influenced or is influencing education?
Yeah, I think in some regards, Moscow is one of the closest to Israel. I have so many friends in Israel, and it's like people move back and forth all the time. So I feel like we're, in some regards, part of the same space. But here, I think situation is quite typical for many megapolises. We have been closed. Our schools have been closed since mid-March. People were not they moved all the lessons online. It was done really fast. It was evident that let's say if we talk about Central Russia, not only about Moscow, in many places schools were not prepared. In Moscow, they have this system called Moscow Electronic School, which is a really good electronic support, educational support system. It's a learning management, the teacher management resources, and so on. So that was much easier because Moscow was more prepared to transit to online learning and do it at the large scale. But I want to say also about the fact that I think that while we can say that, yes, it worked in terms of transition, in terms of experiences of students, teachers, parents, it was not fine. I feel like a lot of people were really traumatized by this because students were not ready for this. They didn't have skill to actually learn online so much. It was really hard for them. Teachers were not prepared. They were only used to maybe sometimes, maybe some of them, maybe younger teachers were used to teach online, but not everyone. And also parents, they were not prepared to stay all the time with kids, take responsibility for them learning and so on. So it was really, a lot of people complained throughout this period of time. They were not comfortable with this whole situation.
And you are similar to Israel, I think, in the sense that school is now not functioning and soon it will be the beginning of next year. So is there any procedures for next year to maintain stability within uncertainty, or some instructions in the context of how can we make students as well, like contribute to well-being or at least decrease the reduction of well-being because of the situation?
Well, it's a really good question. My perception is this, that the government just tries to show that everything goes back to normal. So right now they claim that the schools will open up in a normal format. The only limitation will be on larger gatherings, like the whole school gathering in one single hall, to avoid the risk of everybody in the school getting sick. But they want to keep the same size of classes. They want to keep classes in the normal way of operating. They will probably not even ask children and teachers to wear masks. So it will be the normal operation of schools as anticipated. And very likely that towards the middle of autumn, this will result in some new closures. There is a risk of that because the second wave is very likely. So based on your question, I want to say that I feel right now there is very little attention paid to well-being of students in terms of psychological well-being, well-being of teachers in terms of their resilience. So I feel right now we have a big challenge because this is a problem, but it's not really recognized by the system. and it's not being addressed. So you are pointing to a very, very essential issue.
Now, I know you've been connected internationally, not only to Israel and Russia, but to faraway places, including South America and European, etc., other countries and continents. And I'm sure that you are getting some insights about how is coronavirus influencing countries and way of thinking, responses, and education in different places. And so, is there anything you may want to say about coronavirus? What should it trigger us to do? Business as usual? What should we change? How should we address as human beings, as teachers, and for the sake of students?
Yeah, first of all, I feel that coronavirus has, like when I describe the responses of schools here in Moscow, it's very typical all over the world. So if I ask my colleagues in Argentina, in the US, or in India, it's all very similar. So school closure, adaptation, it was challenging, people were not ready, there was very little flexibility. In some places, like Western Europe, they tried to introduce new pedagogy, but it worked hard. Especially we saw the resistance of parents themselves, because teachers were trying to make online learning more flexible, more interesting, more collaborative for students. Parents were rebelling. They were saying, please bring us more traditional ways of learning. So it's one of the things that was highlighted is, first of all, parents are an important part of this process. They were sort of alienated because they were not part of the school process. They need to be brought back into conversation. They need to be explained the new methods, new approaches. So that's one thing that is very evident from all over the world. Second thing is what you talking about as a trigger. So first of all, the trigger of coronavirus shows that the world will continue to move online, to move to this digital transformation. It's not only about schools, it's all about all sectors of economy. So it's services, manufacturing, and so on. They will bring more and more of these technologies, which means that there will be also need for more human aspect. It's not only about learning how to use these technologies, but learning how to be humans in this new environment, how to relate to each other, how to take care about yourself, of others in this shared space, how to collaborate better online, distributed teams, and so on. So these are essential skills, and they need to be developed, and they need to be developed early. So that's the role of schools. And finally, it's if we are moving into this space, which becomes much more, let's say, turbulent, much more, there are many more challenges that are coming with this situation, because even if we kind of tame down the coronavirus, there are more crises anticipated in the next decade related to climate change, biodiversity loss, and many other problems. And even coronavirus itself serves as a trigger for massive economic turmoil that can happen in the next, let's say, 2-3 years and can continue. So we see a lot of different risks that are not even related anymore to coronavirus itself, but they are kind of being triggered, as you just mentioned. So we need to be prepared as human beings, as collectives of schools, and with teachers, with students, with parents, with everyone, to deal with this. So this shows that social-emotional learning and mindfulness become central aspects of learning, because they help prepare for this uncertainty and cultivate skills that will help us be resilient in the presence of uncertainty.
So I guess my last question, I will mix a few words. One is in the subtitle of the conference are four sub-themes. Flexibility, and you related to it, teachers and education and government and parents. We cannot continue as usual, so we are demanded in a way to be flexible and to adapt. And surrender is acceptance. We have to accept the situation. We cannot freeze, we cannot fight, we cannot run away. So this is it. Presence is, how are we present? How can we be more present with small, our skills and humanness and initiative. So I want to mix initiative and management from the School of Management, your background, and thinking, global thinking, kind of catalyzing change. So if you would give a very short, sort of an advice, not an advice, but a suggestion, or share a proposed insight about, for teachers, about how, what you think you may be able to initiate to self-lead themselves and to manage themselves next year in a good way, in a good enough way, and in a different way than last year, because next year is different. What will be the good self-leadership perspective, capacities, etc.?
So I feel a very important aspect is actually not even collaboration. It's much deeper. It's collectives that we can cultivate and networks that we can cultivate to support ourselves and to help us all regenerate. So in that regard, the worst thing that teachers can do in the present situation is try to deal with it alone in their own way. The best thing they can do is start reaching out to others for support, for collaboration, for learning together, establish learning circles together, to learn how to go through this process together. Build up some forms of dialogue with administration, with parents, maybe some good partners in their neighborhood of the school, like social change agencies or businesses and so on. To actually reach out and recognize that we are in this together is the only way to go through this crisis. We cannot, we don't have resilience. We can have resilience. Some of us will have resilience, but most of us will not have resilience to go through this alone. And they need to support, then they also need to learn together how to go through it. So my main recommendation is reaching out, be humane in this and be vulnerable in this, not just say I know everything, but like, I don't know, and I need to know. I need to learn. So we are in this, but others are the same. They are not. They don't know anything. They need to be open-minded and go through the process together in an open-minded manner. Then we can transit the crisis and come out on the other side more healthy, more strong, more knowledgeable.
I think we'll end here, even though we could continue for hours. So thank you for your contribution, and we are still waiting for flights to be back sooner or later, and then to see you in Israel.
Yeah, we look forward. My daughter misses this a lot.
Thank you, Pavel. Take care. Regards to Moscow.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye-bye.